What fool thing is Johnny doing now? Well, here we go. Lee Hacklin, private investigator in Dire Education. Here we go, Chapter 5. Monday, Monday, so good to me. Monday morning, it was all I hoped it would be. 9 a.m. I was in my office. My one window was closed, for once, and my new portable air conditioner was buzzing like Irwin Allen's The Swarm. Is it supposed to sound like that? My holy drapes, fit for a haunted house, I should really get new ones, were making lasers, and I could feel the back of my neck turn lobster red. After one night in county, locked up with humanity's worst of the worst, I felt a new appreciation for this fragile idea called freedom. You don't know what you've got until it's gone. Indeed. Thank you, Joni Mitchell. I was lost in my latest literary diversion, Capitalism Sucks and Communism Rules, by Dr. Toady Partyline. I tease, actually, it was Sergeant Mackenzie MacDonald of the RCMP in Freeze or I'll Shoot, eh? The elevator doors down the hall opened and three men presented themselves. I recognized two of them, man did I ever. Neither of them were members in good standing of the Lee Hacklin Appreciation Society. Lieutenant Sam Mac Houston of NYPD was in his 50s, sported a J. Jonah Jameson-esque crew cut, and was built like a steel girder. Is there such a thing as 0% body fat? His partner slash subordinate, depending on Sam's mood, which was usually surly, was Lieutenant Winston Winnie Waring, also, well, obviously, I guess, of NYPD. Like John Shaft, Winnie was a complicated man who never had a positive thing to say about the land of the free. His half cup of tea was perpetually half empty, as opposed to his stomach, which was perpetually full to bursting. The third star, Guy Lafleur, that never gets old for me, was short. Uh-oh, red alert. If I have one prejudice, it's short men. I've rarely encountered a short man who didn't have a huge chip on his shoulder. He was south of 40, wore a gray three-piece suit. There were sweat stains on his armpits, lovely, and his vest was decorated with a gold chain. His hair was slicked back, and his shoes were shinier than a teacher's apple. He had more bags under his eyes than a baggage carousel. I was in a state of mad panic. My heart was racing faster than the roadrunner fleeing the coyote. I stood, banged my knee against the edge of my desk. How come that never happens to Fonzie? Grinned like Alfred E. Newman and said, "Hi guys, what a pleasant surprise. How did you know today was my birthday?" Winnie lit his trademark calabash pipe. They're not here to arrest me. Inwardly, I sighed with relief. Winnie harumphed and said, "The day you were born was the day darkness fell upon God's green earth, Hacklin. Hacklin, this is our district attorney, Wyatt Flagstaff. Keith Braun is his stepson. Luckily for you, he's expected to make a full recovery." I sat, little blue buzzard. To my embarrassment, my hands were shaking, and said, "If that thug goes anywhere near Mrs. Gaines or her sons, I'll be sure to aim for that place where his heart ought to be." Silence. Like a not-so-proud papa, Sam shook his head at me. "You sure go out of your way to say the wrong things, Hacklin." Flagstaff fished a cigar out of his vest pocket. He removed the cellophane and dropped it to the floor. When he lit a stogie, I said, "Wyatt, pick that up, drop it in this wastebasket, or you'll be leaving my office via that window." Winston coughed. "Hacklin, that's the DA you're addressing. Does that stand for District Attorney, not safe work, or Disrespectful A-hole?" To my astonishment, Flagstaff picked up the cellophane and did what I told him to do. "Happy now? I just dropped it. You're right about Keith. I've done a poor job of raising him. Hacklin, I've convinced him that pressing charges against you is not in our best interests right now. Of course, he's a minor, so the decision is mine. I'm going to let you walk. You're luckier than a leprechaun, you know. You know that? I've got a file on you that's thicker than a complete set of the World Book Encyclopedia. In a perfect world, you'd be rotting in prison right now for the rest of your life. You and Officer Friday, and you think I'm out of control." Sam jumped in. "Friday's a burnout. I fired him this morning. I shook his hand first, though. I only wish you'd taken a shot at your pretty boy face, Hacklin." I sighed and said, "Fellas, as much as I'm enjoying your company right now, let's crack on, shall we? Mr. District Attorney, what can I do for you? Have a seat." Sam and Flagstaff sat in my client chairs. Winnie nearly leaned against my filing cabinet, but thought better of it. Thundering crash narrowly avoided. I started on coffee. Just when I started to think that maybe Flagstaff wasn't a total hateful prick, he picked his nose, like he was digging for gold. He said, "I may not approve of your methods, Hacklin, but I have to give you credit. You've cracked some ice cold cases. I want you to crack another one. This is a personal matter for me." His name was Jack Madison. He was a history professor at NYU. We were childhood friends. He was best man at my wedding and vice versa. Last year he was murdered. He was 54. He left behind a wife and 5 kids. I said, I'm sorry, sir. Thank you. He was getting into his car one night at NYU when a stone struck the back of his head. He fell backwards and his head hit the pavement. While he was unconscious, he had a heart attack and died. Flagstaff burst into tears. He was a good man. All good men have enemies. The stories he told me about what life was like for him on campus. He was a Christian and a staunch conservative, a more patriotic American than ever was, served in 3 wars, retired a colonel, got his history degree on the GI Bill. Hacklin, Jack's killer like you is a free man. I don't hold you in much higher esteem than the likes of a criminal, but we have to choose our battles in life. Will you take the case? Sure. You don't have to blackmail me. Good. I was intending to. More like quid pro quo. If you'd said no, the boys here were going to arrest you. I'm glad it didn't go that way. Well, I'm not, but I prefer to see Jack's killer in prison than you, okay? And you can't say blackmail anymore. You have to say all colors of the spectrum mail. I poured him a cup of joe and said, Mr. District Attorney, did you just make a joke? Unlike you, Hacklin, I can turn off my a-hole switch. It's a first draft. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, God loves you. And so does Johnny. Cheers.